Welcome to You May Contribute a Verse. I'm Brenna, children's book author of the newly released A Bike is Not Just a Bike, illustrated by Michelle Pereira. It's a lyrical ode to the bicycle and how it helped to usher in the women's revolution. I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Munkin, dad, kidlit author, and science communicator. This episode is proudly sponsored by Canadian children's book publisher Tealmore Press, where every book sold supports reforestation. Check out Tealmore's newest release, Tricksters, Takers, and Team Players, written by Alicia Gabriel and illustrated by Vivian Sarkney. It's a beautiful and unique exploration of animal survival and the powerful relationships that make it all possible. Check out this title and the full Tealmore catalog at tealmorepress.com, including titles like Naked, Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms, and Supermoon. Today's guest is Tonnye Fletcher, author of Music Plants Hope, illustrated by Natalia Bruno. Tonnye gives us the inside scoop on how PB Jams was born, how her background in music informs so much of what she does, including, of course, her debut picture book, Music Plants Hope, which is based on the true story of a concert put on for plants rather than people at the height of COVID. We go on to chat about how her pitch for this book got the attention of none other than Winsome Bingham at Raycraft Books, who is interested. Make sure to listen to the whole episode to hear what happens next, and for Tonye's contribution to the Dead Manuscript Society. Here's Tonye's verse. Tonnye, thank you for being on the show with us. This is so fun to finally meet you.
Yeah.
I have known you, I put in quotes, on social media for years now. Just in the Kidlit community. I know you're repped by Joyce. I know you do PB Jams. Why don't you tell us how you got into Kidlit to begin with? We'll start there. Start at the beginning.
Okay. Well, I'm a teacher. That is how I got into Kidlit. Like I have been reading picture books, to my students since 1999, I guess. This is year 28 for me. So, reading picture books all the time with my students, after a while, you're like, I could totally do this. And I have I've always been a writer, I mean, I process my world through writing, always and forever. Well, let's say since fourth grade, because that's when I really started finding my voice as a writer and realizing that I could write instead of just reading. I was a good reader up until then. But fourth grade, my teacher assigned us a poetry project. And I actually fell in love with poetry before I fell in love with anything else in the literary world as far as writing. And so I wrote just to process my world forever. And then when I became a teacher, I started thinking, well, I don't think I could write picture books. And so I had some stories that I wrote. One of them, which I can't find now, is one that I was going to share for the Dead Manuscript Society, but I couldn't find it. But it was a terrible, 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 terrible piece of writing about a teacher who has this class of students and they start getting sick. There's the stomach bug rolling around. And it was literally based on a true story. Like, it was a terrible year in my classroom. And it was like everybody just kept getting sick nonstop and the custodians were not coming. Like, it was just a nightmare. And my husband came in one day after school, and I just literally was sitting at my desk with my head in my hands, almost in tears. And so I ended up turning that into one of my first picture books. It was a rhyming text. It was really, really bad. And so, yeah, right? We
right.
did. But so that was, there was a few others in those early stages, and I actually queried some of those, sadly. Back in the day, before there was, the online submissions, I literally sent out snail mail queries. You know the drill, right? Yeah.
I feel like you have to, that's your baseline. You have to send out the terrible stuff, get sort of a read and be like, okay, I have my litmus test. I understand I have work to do. Okay.
I knew nothing about Kidlit at the time, except for what I knew as a teacher. It was just ridiculous. And I look back now and I go, bless those agents and editors' hearts. Like, I'm so sorry,
Yeah, but they know, right? This is a rite of passage. They have to know when they get the submission. Yeah.
But so fast forward a really long time. And so in 2019, this has always kind of been my additional retirement plan, if you will. Like, well, when I retire, I'm going to full on be an author, right? And so in 2019, I'm like, okay, this is getting closer and closer. And if I'm going to do this, it's time to literally get started. And so I got very serious. I started out kind of in the Christian space and did a couple of conferences and seminars in that space. And then over the course of about a year, exploring different avenues, I joined a local critique group that was called Word Weavers. It was a Christian-based critique group, and they were all writing adult stuff. And I was finding more and more that I was gravitating more toward the kid lit. So eventually I dropped out of that space. Still have some great friends in that space, but I'm not critiquing with them anymore. And then I, of course, joined SCBWI, and I started taking lots of webinars and classes and doing all the free things and doing all the contests. In February of 2020, it was actually Leap Day, I reactivated my Twitter account and started learning. I did Spring Fling, Kidlit Spring Fling. That was one of the first contests. And so from there, it just kind of snowballed, and I made so many friends, and then eventually started PB Jams and just all the things. So it's been quite the journey, but a lot of fun.
You start?
I did, yeah. 21 maybe. It's been 22. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you really leaned in.
I did. I dove in head first, and I was like, no holds barred, like, here I am, world, let's do this.
So tell us all about PB Jams, like how it started, what it is for people listening who might not know and, want to check it out.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I was still really early in the kidlit space, but I was just watching so many people, Kaylee Pugh in particular, you guys know Kaylee. So I was watching how she was not even published yet, but she was giving back. And I wanted to do that too, but I wanted to do it in a very authentic way for me. And I tend to be a little bit of a divergent thinker. And so I guess most of us are that are in Kidlit, right? That's how we get here. But
What would we?
Right.
Follow this path.
Anyway, I was like, I was reading so many blogs, and I wasn't really listening to many podcasts at that point. That's come a little bit later for me. But I was reading all these blogs, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to just do another blog. Like, I want to do something that's very relational and feels authentic, and I want to see people's faces when I'm talking to them, and I want the audience to see their faces. And I knew nothing, guys. I mean, like, I've never done anything like this before. It was so out of my wheelhouse. But I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to launch PB Jams. I came up with a name based on, I don't know, somebody, I don't even know where originally the connection, but it was like PB, peanut butter, jams, jam, jelly, right? So PB, jam, PB and jam, peanut butter and jelly, picture books, and music, right? Jams being the music. So music is obviously very much in my wheelhouse because that's what I do. I teach K2 music. And I played trumpet since, yeah.
I didn't know you taught music.
Yeah.
Fellow trumpet player.
Yeah, K2 music,
Way back.
trumpet players since 6th grade, yes. Yeah, so music is definitely in my wheelhouse and something that I am very passionate about. And so I was like, well, this is very authentic for me. This is perfect. And I really wanted to do it in a way that brought teaching and reading and writing and music all together into one space. And it was funny because, I had all these ideas in my head for how I wanted it to go. And I started reaching out to people to say, hey, I'm doing this I'm calling it a multimedia podcast. And I'm wondering if you want to come and be on the show. And they're like, well, tell me a little bit more about it. This one author, tell me a little bit more about it. And so I told her all the things that I had planned, and she goes, whoo, and this is like brand new, right? And I go, yeah. And she goes, I think I'm going to sit back and wait a little while and see how this unfolds. But keep me in mind, and we'll see how things happen. Well, fast forward a few months, and I had dove in and gotten some guests that were willing to give it a try. And she messaged me back and she said, you know what? You delivered. You did exactly what you set out to do. I did not think you could do it, but you totally did. So yeah, put me down. I will definitely come on and be a guest,
I just didn't want to be the first one.
I mean, it was such a tall order. I think she really just thought there's no way she's going to do this. And it's definitely evolved. But what happens is I invite people in, just like you're doing, but the picture books have to have a musical component. there has to be some sort of a musical connection. That's like my hard cutoff line. And so they, as I said, it's evolved. Now they fill out a form and let me know what their book is. And then we do a Zoom call similar to this. And we do an interview. We talk about their inspiration for the book, where the music comes in, what's coming next for them, that kind of thing. And we just have a really great chat. And then also in the episode, so the video's on YouTube, but also it's on my website in the blog itself. But also in the blog, I put teaching tips for the regular classroom, because I taught second grade for 17 years before I switched over to the music department. So I do music teacher tips. I do regular teacher tips. I create anywhere from 10 to 20 writing prompts that would go along with the book. And then the author contributes some special writing tips for the episode. And then I link up the book and all the information about the author in the book and where you can get it and all of that fun stuff. I also create a Pinterest board and a YouTube playlist for each book that I feature. Yeah.
For every single one?
Yeah.
Pinterest board. I find Pinterest mentally difficult to navigate. Maybe it's because it's so visually stimulating, but
it's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a labor of love, and I absolutely enjoy it. In fact, there was a season about, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, I was going through just a bit of a rough patch. I think it was like social media driven, like there was so much chaos, in the world, and things were just feeling yuck. And I don't let that get to me. Like, I'm usually very good about distancing myself from that. And honestly, I don't read a lot of it because I don't want to deal with that. But this particular time, it was hitting me kind of hard, and I was just feeling really down. And I had a podcast interview with Kevin Kline for Showdown Symphony, which is a book. It's kind of like Peter and the Wolf. So it has these characters and music that goes along, and then it has a rhyming text that goes with it. And so I had his musician and his illustrator and him on, and the four of us just had a grand conversation. And can I just tell you that just bumped me right out of my funk. It was so, just talking about things that you love with people that get it is just like therapy on its own, right?
So not to interject your story, but just to absolutely agree with you. When I'm feeling overwhelmed and there's too much, and I frequently feel this way with my day job, I remind myself of how absolutely pleasurable these conversations are to do. And if it helps anybody, that's great, but it certainly helps us.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? Like that's part of what we hope, the podcast does, is similar, right? Like you need a distraction, somewhere to go, something to listen to that's sort of like, we get it. We're here. We understand. We love to talk about books. Like, let's do that for an hour or so, and you can just forget about the rest of the noise. Yeah. No, I love that.
And I don't know about you guys, but like I've made so many incredible friends through PB Jams that I never would have known otherwise. And I mean, true friends that are like, in it with the thick of it. So it's just been really, I love it. I'm so glad I've been doing it. I don't intend to stop. I mean, I do get frustrated sometimes, as I'm sure you can relate, that it feels like it's just a slow moving train getting listeners and I want it to be valuable, for my guests too. Like I want it to be helpful to them. And so getting the readership up has been a little frustrating. And there've been times where I've said, okay, I don't know, is this worth it? I mean, it is a lot of work, but it is such pleasurable work and I thoroughly enjoy doing it. So I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
And I feel like, just to piggyback that, like it's like finding the audience again, like after Twitter sort of nosedived and everybody jumped off, that it's been hard to sort of retarget, I guess, or like reconvene, like, oh, where are you guys? Like I'm here. Are you here? Like, hello. It's like, only a fraction of people have moved to Instagram. Only a fraction have them moved to Bluesky. Some are just like, whatever, I'm out entirely, which, I get all of these moves. Yeah, like for us, we've been trying to, and this is sort of a deviation from the actual, conversation here about books. It's, sort of interesting to note, like just social media as a whole, I think is hard for everybody for, a multiple different reasons. But yeah, trying to figure out, where the most people are, and where also because I do most of the social media posting for us, so trying to figure out where I can put my energy that doesn't also feel like it's draining, but
Right.
sort of like can also get the word out and hand in hand anyway. So I get that it's hard to figure out where you want to invest your energy and where you can also do the most good and reach the most people. So
Exactly.
anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's really the only frustration. Everything else is good, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, at least when I think about, sorry, I have to close this tab. On my other monitor, you said Kevin Kline, and I looked up Kevin Kline, the author, and Kevin Kline, the actor, came up, and I imagined you talking to Kevin Kline and how he would put wind in your sails too, which
Amazing.
would be a lovely person to talk to. Now I've distracted myself from what I was saying. No, the audience thing, that's what I had written down, is who do you see as your primary audience, and how did that change? But for us with our podcast, I don't know, Brenna, I don't know if you worry about it. I've sort of stopped worrying about it. Getting the listens, to a certain level is great. Knowing that that there are people who get value out of it is pleasurable. It's just chasing after it is just it's a frustration that is not worth our time. It's better spent just chasing the joy instead.
Yeah, like the numbers are not something that I really pay attention to. Like I was aware of them when we made that move from posting on Twitter to not posting on Twitter. And that, it was a big, like those numbers definitely changed. But after that, I was like, well, what are we going to do? Like, I'm not, like primarily I'm a writer. I want to spend most of my time writing, right? I love the podcast. I love making those connections. I love, having these conversations available for people. But also I'm not gonna, like if you want the information, you'll find us. We're out there. It's not like we're trying to hide, but I'm also, I'm sort of putting it out there in a way that I feel good about and my bandwidth can handle.
Right.
And I figure the people who need it will be able to find it. Like they will somehow, the podcast and people will connect that way. Yeah, because if I get too wrapped up in the numbers, that's just something else I have to agonize over. And I've already got publishing that I'm agonizing over. Am I right? Like I've got enough like anxiety in my life. So I'm like, I'm not going to take that on. The podcast is just going to be all fun, all like for joy, not any of the like trying to get it in front of people, trying to make it like this, that, and whatever. Anyways, yeah, I don't worry about it too much.
Easy for us to say, considering we get 1 million to 2 million listens per episode.
Right.
Privilege. No, kidding.
No. I need to take some lessons. I need to take a couple of pages from your book, I think.
Nope. Don't take pages out of our book at all.
I think for me, it's not so much about getting it out for myself, but it's more for my guests. Like I want it to be valuable, for them. I want that time. And hopefully, like me, they feel the value in the relationship that we've built and
totally
having, a lovely discussion about their book. And oftentimes we, really chat heavily, not always, but sometimes really heavily about what you can do with this book, like in the classroom, and so hopefully those conversations are valuable in and of themselves, as you were saying, Brenna, absolutely. But also I just want it to be valuable for them and time well spent. So that's really my only frustration, is just making sure it's good for them.
So I'm going to ask this question knowing full well that we don't have a concrete answer for it ourselves, but do you think about your audience for PB Jams in a specific or particular way, as I want to help these authors make their books teachable? I want to reach kids with content about picture books that they may be consuming, or how do you think about it?
I do, but it's very widespread, which I think is part of the loftiness that the author was feeling when she said, I'm just going to sit back and wait and see, because I do have, hopefully a wide reach that I'm aiming for, and that is, daycare workers and preschool, because many of the books that I feature are either board books or, very simple, picture books. But also I do picture book biographies, which range up to, upper elementary and even maybe into middle school. So teachers in general, right? Music teachers very specifically, because I always try to make sure I'm including that good music content that a music teacher could literally just take this book and take these tips and do something with it in their classroom. And then also for families, like for homeschooler, families, as well as just general families. And then I always want to offer something to my Kid Lit community. So like I say, it's a very wide audience, and that's intentional, but also it's challenging because you're trying to provide something for everybody, hence the heavy workload.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Well, I was gonna pivot back to writing, Josh, unless you had more podcast stuff.
I was also going to pivot.
Okay.
As I said to Brenna, I was excited to talk about your book and the rest of your journey.
Yeah. Let's pivot back to your book, because your book also so beautifully ties together that musical element. So let's talk about all about your book. Like, where did the idea come from? How did you go from idea to publication? What was that like?
So I wrote my own PB Jam. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
You sure did.
Who's going to interview you?
Yeah. So it's actually kind of funny because back in the Twitter days, right? Like there was an agent who posted the concert. So my book is called Music Plants Hope, and it's based on a concert in Barcelona in 2020 as the height of the pandemic was starting to wane a little bit and things were just starting to open back up. And, Barcelona was very hard hit during the pandemic, if you remember. It was really difficult. And there was such beautiful stories coming out of that, too, though, with people singing across the balconies to each other and how music really was a healing force during, that very difficult time. But as things started to open back up, but they weren't really opening up back up for people, the Liceu Theater in Barcelona, Spain was like, okay, we can open, but we can't have an audience of people. So what are we going to do? And they contacted this artist, Eugenio Ampudia, who lives in Madrid, and said, Eugenio, what ideas do you have? And Eugenio is, number one, he's fabulous. I got to meet him this summer and talk with him.
Very cool.
Oh my gosh, yes. It was so wonderful.
Because you went to Europe. That's right.
I did. And so I had a great chance to talk with him, and he's just fabulous. And he does a lot of bringing nature into his art. So he's a visual artist, but he brings other art forms together as well as nature. He's like a kindred spirit. I mean, can you tell, like, we're all about bringing things all together, right? And so he suggested to the Liceu director, he said, why don't we do a concert for plants and let's just fill up the auditorium with plants. So they did that. And so they posted the video on YouTube. And so this agent, I won't say the name, but anyway, she posted it on Twitter, the video, and she said, I'm not sure what this would look like, but I would really like a picture book about this. Well, I watched it.
So hold on one second. Yeah. This is before you were agented. Is that right?
This was I just want to July of 2020. So I literally
super fresh. Yeah.
It's super.
I just wanted to put the timeline in there, sort of like, for people listening who are like, oh, like what happens if I write to spec? Like, will an agent? Anyways, just throwing that out there. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, I was very fresh into Kid Lit at the time. I mean, like I say, I dove in at the end of February, and this is like June, July of 2020. So, I mean, I've only been doing this for a few months, but I'm like, yes, I will accept this challenge, like challenge accepted. And so I set about writing about this concert. So I watched it like 159 times. I don't know. And I ended up writing 3 different versions of this story. So I took it as an expository, just a straight nonfiction, here, just the facts, ma'am, kind of a manuscript. And I also wrote the version that eventually became Music Plants Hope. And then I also wrote one about I focused in on one plant and kind of what their journey might have been like from the nursery to the concert. And then what happened after the concert is they donated all these plants to healthcare workers in the hospital of Barcelona, which is just fantastic.
Love that.
Yeah, I did too. And so I just kind of followed that journey from nursery to concert to home with this healthcare worker, right? So there were 3 very different versions of the story, and I liked them all, and I sent them out to them, and I'm fresh, it's still early in the career. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just figuring it out. And I would probably do that differently today, but that's okay. I sent it out to critique groups, all three of them, and I kind of had them together. Anyway, I polished up all three, and eventually I sent all three of them to this agent, and I said, okay, you asked, I delivered. Here's three totally different takes. Let me know if any of them resonate with you, queried her with them and whatever. And she pretty much said, yeah, thanks for sharing, but no, not what I was looking for at all. And so, literally, they like structure, they like focus, they like this, they like that. But thanks for trying it anyway. And so,
hold on, one quick. Yep. I just want to ask one quick question there.
Of course.
I also love that you, so you have said several times you are new, based on how you queried this agent, because yes, they did ask for this specific story. You wrote 3 versions. Lots of times people are like talking about, querying, like, which one do I send? Can I send more than one? Did they say that was okay? How did you approach that? Did you just say like, look, here, here's my query letter. I wrote this story that you asked for. Here are 3 versions. Or did you just send the one?
Because, and I'm raising my finger to interject because this is a very Brenna question, because Brenna writes 100 different versions. I mean, I'm assuming you still do it this way. It's been a minute since I've written your stuff, but it seems like a very personal sort of like,
I do. Yeah.
Different ways to get the story right kind of framing.
Yeah. So I'm very curious on a personal note, how did you,
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, Brenna, since I sent that in. So, but I do know I sent her all 3. I sent the query letter, and I said, here's 3 very different takes on the event, and I would love to know which one resonates with you, if any of them do. I look forward to working with you. Thanks for reading, kind of thing, and then I sent all 3. I mean, I'm sure I put like a little blurb about each one, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bottom line is she wrote back and said, yeah, none of those worked. So I'm like, okay.
It's time for this week's book reviews. Josh's review for the week is for my book, A Bike is Not Just a Bike, written by me and illustrated by Michelle Pereira. Oh, it says here he didn't like it. Awkward. Just kidding. He loves this book. He says this book has come together beautifully and is worth spiritual successor to The Law of Birthdays, in the sense that it's a subversive and scathing takedown of the dumb ways the world works. This book is so simple but so complex. And as all great nonfiction books do, reading this guarantees an insight or two to a new idea, no matter what your age. Michelle's art is gentle and feminine, while also being bold in a way that effectively blends the time periods and fashions together. In summary, congratulations to me. You should go buy my book. And bonus, Josh has gotten some really significant enjoyment out of having me read these words of praise about my own book. And also, thank you, Josh, for those glowing words. It is so kind of you to have read and reviewed my book. And thank you to everybody out there also who has read and reviewed the book. It means a lot. And my review for this week is for Sounds of Trash, written by Tina Athaide and illustrated by Neha Rawat. It's a kid-friendly story if there ever was one. A fun, rhythmic take on found treasure mixed with STEM learning, and the illustrations will engage kids and adults alike from the first page. Don't forget to get your own reviews and library requests in. It's the #1 way to help an author's sales. And now, back to our show. Love that you went for it, though. Like, I love that you just were like, look, I'm going to write the story, and she wanted one, and here's what I came up with. Like, because a lot of times, like, there's all these rules in publishing, all these, like, quote-unquote rules in publishing and querying and all of the things. Lots of them are unspoken, and you're just like, I don't know what to do here. So a lot of times it's like you just kind of have to go for it. And sometimes it works out, or sometimes it doesn't. But I love that you just went for it, because you have to.
Yeah, you do. So, go ahead, Josh.
Well, sorry, Tonnye. It's just funny because, and we've talked to Joyce about this too, and others. I mean, unspoken rules, but oft broken rules. Just you find what works. You find what gets the job done while being respectful.
Yeah, right. It's a lot of working on vibes. Like, is this cool? This feels cool based on like this very specific ask an editor and agent, whatever. Anyways, okay, so on with your story, Tonnye. So she said, no, thank you. And then and then what?
Thank you, but no thanks. Yeah.
So,
I just kind of set it aside, and I'm like, okay, I mean, it was worth a try, right? And so I put it out for a few pitch parties and no likes, no nothing. I mean, and I think I queried it. As a matter of fact, I queried this story to Joyce, ironically. And Joyce and she and I haven't even really talked about this. So, but anyway,
she listens too.
I know. So
hi, Joyce.
She's very good about always responding. Like, she has an incredible reputation in the business for always responding. Well, she never responded to this query that I sent at the time it was called Green Magic, right? So I had this manuscript, Green Magic, and I had sent it to her, and I didn't hear back from her at all. And then I did several pitch parties and didn't hear anything positive, like on any of the things I sent out. You know how it is. And so February of 22, I submitted it again. So this is it's like a year and a half after, the writing of it. I put it out in another pitch party just in case, because you just never know. And the next morning, and in the first few pitch parties, I don't know if you're like me, but in the first few pitch parties, I'm like watching voraciously, like just waiting, right? And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the process, and I'm just going to cheer other people on. I'm just going to have a good time. I don't care. I'll check at the end of the day, right? You kind of get to that place where you can let it go. And so I was obviously at that place and let it go, and, checked at night before I went to bed. I'm like, nothing. Okay, no worries. Just like normal. No problem. Went to bed. Woke up the next morning to a DM on Twitter from Winsome Bingham at Raycraft Publishing. And she had sent me a DM, and she said, I liked your manuscript. I liked your pitch. Please send me the manuscript. Here's the, deets. And I'm like,
amazing.
Wait, what? She liked my pitch. She didn't like my pitch before I went to bed last night. Like, what? What? Like, are you like, oh my gosh, she did like my pitch. When I went back and looked, I'm like, oh my gosh, There's a heart. There it is. And so I was so excited, as you can imagine. And so I polished it up again, sent it back out to all the critique groups and said, let me know what you think. I'm getting ready to send this out and blah, blah, blah. And so I did that. I sent it to Winsome. And so this is just the funniest story. So I sent it to her, and then I panicked, and I'm like, what if it gets lost in her email? What if, And so I thought, well, she sent me a DM, so I can send her a DM. So I did, and I just responded to her message, and I said, it should be in your inbox. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to hearing from you. And immediately, I got a message back that said, please call me at this number. And I'm like, this is not how this works. It's funny.
Winsome, no less.
I want to interject just real quick. I have had a couple of exchanges with Winsome, and she also, like Joyce, is very quick and quite responsive. As long as she's like there in it. Like, if you've engaged her, she will respond to you, until the conversation is over.
About her at the time.
Yes, right. So I can imagine you being like, oh my God. But yes, she also has that reputation. Yeah.
Somebody has hacked the woman's Twitter, and they're playing a joke on me. Like, this is where my head went. Like, this is not funny, guys. This is my life. Like, don't mess with me. And so I am literally, like, I pull up my computer, and I'm doing a reverse phone lookup to see if this is remotely possible.
Totally.
It could be Winsome, actually, really and truly, and not some crazy hacker who's like randomly targeting this crazy woman in North Carolina. Like, what?
Right.
Like,
what's the motivation? What do you want? My plant manuscript? Like, leave me alone.
It's crazy. But, in the moment, your brain is just like doing weird things. And so.
Oh, yeah. I would have done the same thing. Totally.
Like crazy. But in the middle of doing a reverse phone lookup, my phone rings. And so.
Wait, was your contact information on your query?
On the manuscript. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking. Because then it would be like, oh my God, how did you get this number?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
She called me right back, and so she said, I'm trying to reach Tonnye Fletcher. I said, this is she, and she said, well, this is Winsome Bingham from Raycraft, and at that point, my jaw hits the floor.
I would have been like, shut your mouth.
I know.
It's not. Like, shut up. Goodbye.
It was so crazy. My husband was sitting in the sofa, like, across the room from me, and I'm going, y'all can't see me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And so,
wow.
I'm mouthing to my husband, and so I'm trying to stay calm, and so I'm like, hi, Winsome, it's so nice to hear from you.
All casual. I just got off the phone with Scholastic. It's fine. How are you? Right? Like this happens all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, she did not mince any words. She just started in talking about how beautiful the manuscript was and how it had musicality and it had all these beautiful things and it was stunning and it was beautiful. And I want to buy this book. And I go,
oh, okay.
Okay, what?
Oh my God!
What do we do now? Because I was non-agented. I mean, let's recap. I'm fresh in the field. You know, I mean, at this point, it's a couple of years in. But I mean, I've not had any interest like this before, and I'm not agented. You know, and so what the heck do we do? And so she said, "Well, do you have an agent?" And I said, you know, my heart sinks. I'm like, oh crap, it's over. This is it. You know, like this dream is just crashed. And I said, no, I don't. She said, well, I don't work with unagented authors. And I said, okay. And she said, but when I find something that I really like and they don't have an agent, I just work with them to help them find an agent. So who would you like for me to call for you?
What? Oh my God. Tonnye. Wow.
What's amazing? And so actually,
that is incredible.
It is incredible. Yeah, you're exactly right. It is incredible. It is like a dream story.
I have so many. I mean, wow. Also, Winsome is coming on the show in a couple of weeks, and
nice.
I mean, I have so many things to chat with her about, anyways. But I just like this is beyond sort of like. I feel like what I know about Raycraft, and I'm sorry, I know this is a total tangent, but what I know about Raycraft, what I know about Winsome, she very much embodies what her brand is, what her publishing company is. Like she is trying to publish beautiful stories. She wants to help people. She wants to pull people up. She wants to like highlight, you know, those stories that are meant to reach people that need them. And this is just it's such a personification of that, like going the extra mile to now not only want to call you and publish your book, but now do the reverse and help you find an agent for her to work with on your behalf. Like, I mean, that it's so generous and so gracious. I just wanted to take a minute to really highlight that. So anyways, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but wow.
No, you're good. Good. As a matter of fact, I have a beautiful Winsome story that has nothing to do with my book either, but it has to do with her book, Soul Food Sunday.
Oh,
and for your listeners, if you have not read Soul Food Sunday, like just stop what you're doing. It's on YouTube. If you have, I mean, just like go listen, go read it. It's so fabulous. And I was actually in a book club meeting with Ebony Mudd, Lynn Mudd, who had arranged, you know, this book club surrounding that book. And so I think I had bought the book and I had read it, and Winsome was actually in the audience because she and Ebony knew each other, and so Winsome was actually there, and I was sharing. They were asking, you know, what is this book, you know, meant to you or whatever, and I started sharing, got really emotional, and Winsome, gosh.
It's okay. Take a minute.
Winsome messaged me in the chat and said, I love you, Tonnye Fletcher. And it was just such a delightful exchange. And so that was a precursor to this. It was the only interaction she and I had was that book club, as she just recognized that it had really touched a chord in my heart, and we just really bonded. You know, we had several chat back and forth during that book club after I had, you know, fallen apart in the middle of the book club, which was kind of embarrassing, but you know, it was just so beautiful. And so she is just a lovely, 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 incredible person, and her books are beautiful and incredible, and she is beautiful and incredible, and I consider it such an honor to have worked with her, and for her to have, you know, taken me under her wing and taken a chance on this newbie, you know, just all the things. I can't say enough good things. She's just been wonderful. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to drop my...
Okay. So sorry, go ahead, Josh. I wanted to circle back though. Go ahead.
I just get you to say how quickly you said Joyce when you said like who can I connect with to get
right, like who is your exactly. I was gonna say, who is that list? Like, what did you say to Bingham when she was like, "Please let me like help you"? Or sorry, Winsome. I don't know why I said her last name. Go ahead. Sorry.
Actually, I didn't. It's not. I mean, no, casting no shade on Joyce whatsoever. I mean, I had queried Joyce and I, she was on my radar, but honestly, there were a couple of people, and again, I'm not going to call names, but there were a couple of agents that I really had been, I just really thought would be good for me personally. And I had queried and queried and queried and queried. And honestly, I was very disenchanted. I mean, full disclosure, absolute transparency here. I'm like, you know what? Normally I would have said this one or this one, but I'm done with them because I have queried them so many times and they haven't even given me the time of day.
Totally.
Sorry, this may be harsh. This is absolute transparency. This is how I roll, y'all. Sorry if this is, feel free to edit.
That's what we all live. No. No, I mean, it's an experience that we all live where you just have enough of the uphill with no summit.
Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, so these were the two people that I kind of had in mind, but I'm not giving you either one of their names. And so I really don't know. And so she is the one actually, Josh, who said, have you considered Joyce? And I said, I mean, of course I've considered Joyce. I've queried Joyce. And so she said, here's what I like about Joyce. Like, she's the one who brought Joyce to me and said, here's what I like about Joyce. She really fights for her clients. She is a go-getter. She is, she just listed all of Joyce's positive characteristics. And I said, okay, let's call Joyce. So she literally did. She called Joyce that evening. She called me the next morning. I was teaching. So she left me a voicemail and said, okay, you have an in with Joyce. Send her this manuscript, put all this in the subject line, blah, 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 and we'll see what happens. And so I did all of that. Joyce said, it was on my birthday. I was at the eye doctor, and I got an email from Joyce that said, Tonnye, this is stunning. I'll never forget it. Like, wow. It was just such surreal moments, just back to back to back. And so,
did you have to have the eye doctor read it for you? You were like, oh shoot, I can't. Do you mind?
It's on the wall in really big font.
The irony, right? The irony. Like, could I have a pair of your readers? I don't know what this says. It could be good or bad.
It's magnification possible.
Yes.
I was just like, I was over the moon. And so she's like, send me some more work. And so I did. I sent Joyce more stories, and then they read those and they asked for a call. And so we had the call. We only talked for like 35 minutes, and they said, you know what, you are delightful, and I think we would be a great partnership, and I would love to offer you representation. And so I did my due diligence and said, okay, give me some time, which I really didn't need, but I took it, and I, came back and I said, okay, let's do this thing. And so I think we signed paperwork in maybe late March, maybe, of that year of 22. So yeah. And then Winsome did say, she said, this title's not going to work. Like, we're going to have to ditch the title. And so it went for a long time with no title. Like, it was Green Magic, and then it was like nothing for a really long time. And then I had an editing call with Winsome, which was also a dream, in like December of maybe that same year. And she said, yeah, the title's not working, but everything else is great. And she said, I don't have any edits for you. I mean, she said, I hate it when people send me like perfect manuscripts, but this one is like pretty perfect. And she said, the only thing I'm missing one beat, but when I talked to Wiley, and look, y'all, I don't know if y'all know this feeling, but I'm here to tell you that when I came away from that call that day, like, number one, it was the first time that I felt truly like an author, but also I have never been more humbled, because she said, Wiley and I were reading your book and talking about it, and he said, you just need to go back through and look. I think the beat is there. I think you just need to pace it out a little differently. And she was talking about how beautiful they both said the book was and stuff, and I just wanted to like stop the moment in time and say, okay, wait, there are people that are not me that are sitting around, and these are people that know books and they love books, and they're sitting around and they're talking about my book and my words and my, like, oh dear Jesus, like that moment, like, if I could have framed that moment in time, bottled it, I absolutely would. Like, I hope everybody who has this dream gets to have that feeling, because it was absolutely amazing.
Tonnye, I'm so happy for you that you've had this experience. And to me, it's so well earned. We've had just a limited opportunity to look through the book because as of this recording, it is still only in Edelweiss. And so I kind of like paged through it image by image and got a sense for it that way. But I mean, I don't disagree with all of them. It's not only beautiful, but it's unique in a fascinating way. And before we get too close to when you need to do your dead manuscript, which we don't want to miss, I mean, I do want to talk about and break down the craft of it or the intentionality of it. Knowing now that you wrote the story 3 different ways, the thing that stuck out to me as I read through it is the experience that most people will have once this book is in the world and on shelves, which is pick up this gorgeous book. I'm looking at it on my other monitor to the side. Pick up this gorgeous flowery book with a very evocative title. I think you ended up with a really nice title that works both ways. A list of music, comma, plants, comma, and hope, and then the more actiony phrase. But what's interesting to me about thinking about it in that way is that you don't have to know, and most people will not know that it's a COVID book. They
Right.
won't have the context for knowing what the heck are we reading about. And that's what's so fascinating about it. You can go into it with that understanding of like, this is this moment in time, and we're thinking about this person who put this experience together to honor people and commemorate whatever. Or you can have a completely different experience with it, which is to read through this cool book with a lot of different moments where you can talk about different musical instruments and, whatever, like writing prompt book discussion type stuff, like what effect does music have on plants? And there's a lot to talk about, but really in essence, it's, you get through the entire book and then you get to the back matter and you go, oh my God, that's what this is. Yeah. It's beautiful. It really is. I don't think I've ever seen a picture book that does, not comedically, but does a punchline in that way where you go like, oh, this is really the bigger picture. This is what I've been reading about this entire time. And I wonder if you talked about that with Joyce or with Winsome, the fact that it's not descriptive. It's just a poem where you can have the context for it and pull back, or you don't have to have the context for it and pull back. It just can be its own thing.
So originally, when I sent it out to critique groups, they're like, it didn't start with the prologue and the epilogue that it has now. I think I had back matter as opposed to prologue and epilogue that told the true story, and all my critique partners were saying we need grounding because it just started like footsteps on the stage, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this as a reader, And so I said, okay, well, let me go in. So I did this little prologue that just kind of said, here's why the footsteps are coming onto the stage. So here's the prologue. And then I changed the back matter to more of the, the little epilogue bit. Well, funnily, when Winsome read it, she's like, yeah, I don't like the prologue. We're going to ditch that. And it just, it interrupts the flow of the story and blah, blah. And I said, okay, I'm good with that. I mean, I'm flexible. You get to a point where you're like, just publish my book. I don't care. I'll turn it upside down, inside
Right.
out. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Right.
Right.
And I said, that's fine. And so, and then ironically, like there it was back. And like, we didn't even have this discussion, I think, in our editing meeting, but I think it just, over time, I think they just realized too that it needed to have that grounding of the prologue that kind of gives just the very basic, and then the epilogue that kind of tells a little bit more of the story and what happened to the plants after the concert, which is all just so incredibly lovely. And so, I mean, yes, intentional in terms of, in this version, I just wanted it to echo the music. Right. Like my goal as the writer of this particular manuscript about the book was I want to take the music and put it into words, if that makes sense. Like I want you to feel everything you would feel from the music, but I want to express it through the words. And I want to express what it might have been like from the plant's perspective, as they're just, being blessed with this amazing musical experience that, plants don't typically get. And so, I know this is kind of woo-woo, but That's okay. Joyce is woo-woo, so she and I
That's
are,
okay.
I mean, you know, we're a
that.
good mix as far as that's concerned. But you know, just what it might have been like, you know, for that music to be, and I mean, I know, and you know, how music affects us, and how, I mean, I'm assuming you do. I hope you do. Music is such an ethereal experience, and it moves you from the inside out as well as from the outside in, right? Like it does things to your body that you internalize to your heart, but it also does things inside your body that you express outwardly, if that makes sense at all. Maybe
Totally.
not, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put that into perspective for the plants that were experiencing this amazing musical experience. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully.
It does. The funny response that I have is, I think when I read it in Edelweiss, it skipped me over the existence of the prologue. So I went into it just totally fresh from page one, which is maybe a version of the Stepped on the Stage, as a version of the manuscript that existed in editing. So yeah, it's nice that it's bookended, and also unique in picture books to have a prologue and epilogue that are sort of explanatory in that way.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because even longer works, like adding a prologue is very sort of like, ooh, like, you really have to like,
do we need like a
hit
big
it
explanatory art
well.
note kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of, like, I remember a couple of years ago we had Jennifer March Soloway on, and we talked specifically about a prologue for a bit, like a couple of minutes at least. Like she had strong opinions about whether or not you add it, and rightfully so, because it can really be the thing that helps a manuscript and that you need and sort of like sets you up, or it can do the opposite and sort of like pretend to, like, it's like masquerading as a prologue, but it's actually like your first chapter, and you don't sort of want to like mix the two, what I mean? So it's, anyways, I love that you ended up going with the prologue and an epilogue, because it is, again, a very unique story anyways. And I was going to say, based on what you're telling us about how you wrote it, that musicality really comes through, like that first stanza and then sort of weaving into the next, like it's, and the artwork, we didn't even talk about the artwork. It is so beautiful, and it so ties together exactly what you're trying to do from the first page. Like I went into that being like, the music and the plants, and we're kind of small, and we're like in it. And there's the little bird perched on the music holder, which there's probably a word for that I don't know, but it's just the tiny details are like, it's so well done. It's, everything that you're saying came across.
Natalia is absolutely amazing. And I was so blown away when I first saw sketches, because it is not at all what I was expecting, but it's so much more, and so much more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. And ironically, and I know you guys will feel this, like when you turn your words over to somebody else and you're like, I just hope I like it, like I don't want to not like it. And I'm so worried, because I'm also a very visual thinker. And so I see all the pictures in my head as I'm writing. Like I see a version of what I think it could look like. And so in my version in my head, it was very literal, right? Like it was very, in the space of the Lisu Theater, and, it was just there, I was so engrossed in the story. And when I first got the sketches, I'm like, oh, holy wow, like this is not at all what I was expecting. And I had just told Shane, my husband, who I also have to give credit for helping me come up with the title, like we just sat down and did a big brainstorming session, and I mean, like we just hashed it out. He's amazing, so he helped me come up with Music Plants Hope. But I had just told him just a few days before the sketches came through, I said, I'm so thankful that my first book is a nonfiction book, because there's the pictures, there's the video, like everything is there. And so I feel like there's not as much chance for me to be disappointed in the artwork not looking like what I expected to look like. And then it comes in and it looks nothing like what I expected it to look like, right? But it was so gorgeous, and I was not in any way disappointed. I was over the moon with how beautifully Natalia took, and there again, it was another surreal moment. Like, there are these moments in time in this journey that you just want to bottle or frame and go, I want to feel this feeling forever and ever and ever, ever. And seeing that somebody else had taken my words that I put on a computer or paper and created something so incredibly beautiful, like so beautiful. And I'm a woman of words, but I have no words for that. Like, it is absolutely beyond amazing. And she did so fantastic. And the bird, Brenna, so the bird is a swallow. It's a barn swallow. And if you look at the symbolism of a barn swallow, they symbolize hope.
Oh, wow. The details just keep coming. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have known that. But even like any bird perched there sort of feels hopeful, right? But to pick the swallow, the message was sort of like conveyed, like I got it subconsciously, but I didn't know that she took it that much further. Illustrators are just, I mean, they're magicians. They're incredible. They don't get enough credit.
Exactly. No, you're right. How she wove the music, and the bird kind of carries the music throughout the book, and like the music staff is kind of flowing behind, like the wind of their wings. It's just absolutely, I don't know, it's just so beautiful. What a blessing.
Wow.
What a blessing.
There aren't a lot of conversations where I'm more certain than I am now that this conversation will lead to people being very curious about going and buying or checking this out.
It's a must-have. Wait, so when does it come out? And then I want to pivot into Dead Manuscript before we run out of time. But when does it come out?
Okay, so May 26th of 26 is official release date.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So everybody,
super happy
pre-order request from your library, like check it out. It really is. It's like truly magical. It's an actual like piece of art. Like a lot of picture books are, but this especially is just, it's so well conceived on, every level. So, Dead Manuscript. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for offering to submit something and be a part of it. I love when people are up for it.
Of course. Let's see. I don't know how to do this on this. All right. Let me see if I can. I may disappear from you, or I may not be able to see you
That's
for
fine.
a second. I'm going to pivot over to my manuscript. So this one is called I Am a Rock. And it says, I am a rock, but I wasn't always. I was part of a mountain for longer than you've been alive, but I am not alive. I am a rock. Over time, wind and rain and snow and ice and all the things that happen to mountains and rocks happened to me. One day I broke loose, tippling and toppling, tripping and tumbling down the mountain. It didn't hurt because I'm not alive. Over time, I tippled, toppled, tumbled, and tripped until one day I tumbled into a creek and washed into a river. The water swished as I sank. Silt and sediment washed over me over and over, day after day, year after year, until I became smooth, not jagged like the mountain at all, but still not alive. Then one day someone picked me up from the riverbed and tucked me in their pocket. Later I was covered with bright paint and beautiful words. Then a giggling girl hid me by a bench in the park. Someone spotted me and smiled. They tucked me in their pocket. Until the day they laid me by a sidewalk in a small town. A rambunctious boy grabbed me and tossed me. Now I tumble from pocket to pocket, from place to place, bringing giggles and joy, bringing peace and love, bringing happiness and hope. Perhaps I am alive after all. I am a rock, but I am a kindness rock.
I love the twist at the end, the kindness part.
Why is that a dead manuscript is my question. Need to resuscitate it.
I sent it, I think, for a couple of reasons. I sent it out to critique partners, and they just didn't think it was working. I don't even remember. Like, it's been a while since I've even. And then there's just been so many other books that kind of do similar things, and I just don't know that I can add to that conversation. So I do love it.
The rock conversation.
The rock conversation, right? I mean, our church did we did a series called Love Rocks, and we painted kindness rocks, cool. And we sent them out into the community. And so that's kind of where the inspiration for that came from. And then you think about, where that rock originally came from and kind of that journey, obviously I'm all about the journey, but I don't know. I think it just would require so much work, and I think in fact, I just saw another one today that I think, dang, that's probably just like that other, so I just think, I don't know, maybe later, but for now it's shelved.
It is funny in how similar it is, at least in concept, because it's not anything that I've executed yet, to something that I had been planning on writing, drafting, that I will not write now out of respect for your manuscript. That, I was driving with my family back to St. Louis from Kansas City, passing, going over a bridge and passing a Missouri Bluff, and my headphones weren't working. And so I was thinking through and head drafting a similar story, tumbles down from a bluff and goes into the water and makes a kid happy. It's funny how that works.
I think it's just one of those universal things for kids too. Like, we all love rocks as kids, right? I mean, there's just something so cool and special about them. And, but there's just so many out there. I just, I loved the kindness rock aspect of it, and I thought maybe that would set it apart. But by the time I got through some critique groups, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just set this one aside.
I feel like some manuscripts are like that. Like, I sort of lose steam for them because I'm just like, okay, I see how much work this is going to take. Like, exactly. I've put in X amount of work on, whatever I have that's actually polished. And I'm like, do I have it in me to, like, get this one to that point? Like, I see the path, but, like, do I want to? Like, do I love it enough? Do I,
Right.
And sometimes you just don't, and that's fine. It's like, it's like process art. Like your kids bring home so much process art, you're sort of working it out and getting to the next thing. And so, like, it's just a piece of the puzzle. It's not, necessarily like, anyway.
But also, Josh, don't not write, because, there's so many different voices and there's so many different ways to tell stories, and we all have our own way. And, what would set yours apart may be totally different from what didn't set mine apart. And, I think about the book, Trunk Goes Funk. Yeah. So I was reading, it was so funny because I had just seen a video on I think it was Twitter, and it was this fallen log, and it was just a wild cam that had been set up, and it was just following all these animals that were using this log in all kinds of unique ways, not just as a bridge, but in other ways too. And I had just, my husband and I were just scrolling, laying in bed one night, and I said, oh, look at this video. Like, isn't this cool? I think this might make a nice picture book. Honest to goodness, I scrolled down a little bit more, and there was the announcement for Trunk Goes Thunk. I said, oh, there goes that idea.
Check that off the list.
Check it off.
Yeah.
But what a great, on the one side, it's like, yes, you have a great eye. That obviously would have made a great picture book.
Right. That's a good takeaway.
Right? Because that author had seen like a very similar video to the one that I had just watched, if not the same one. When I was reading later, as, her process got through, she had done exactly what I had done. She had seen a video and thought, would this make a good picture book? And I'm like, that makes me feel good, because it means, hey, I'm on the right track for, finding good ideas, right? Because somebody loved that idea. So
Totally. Yeah. Well, Tonnye, we are up and over the hour, and I want to say thank you so much for coming on and being so candid with your journey and how your book came to be, and for sharing your dead manuscript. I mean, not everybody, is up for that, which I totally understand, but I love when people are willing to share. So thank you for doing that and being a part of the Verse Show.
Oh,
you have been a delight to talk to you. Yeah.
It has been surreal. Like, I follow the show all the time, and I listen to the episodes. So hanging out here with you guys has been a real pleasure, a dream come true. Man.
Well, thank you. I mean, like we said earlier, right? That's like the whole point. Like, I love when we can make these sort of like actual, personal, authentic connections and, reach people and sort of just be like a community together, building one episode at a time, and people are, listening and there, and they come on and we talk, and it's, I love when that happens full circle. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
It's
of
really
course.
kind.
Yeah. Great to chat with you guys.